Welcome back, everybody. As John mentioned before the commercial break, our next guest, well, he's a friend of the show. We like having him on because he is a wealth of knowledge. He keeps us educated as to where and how our taxpayer dollars get spent. Imagine that. Now we all know my personal tax feelings on taxation. So I will just save time and turn it over to David Williams, the president of Taxpayers Protection Alliance. David, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. And September is a busy month for Congress because it's the end of the fiscal year, and this is when the spending really ramps up, or supposed to ramp up, right? This is when all the appropriations are due. And guess what? Congress is way behind on their work, and they're looking at another continuing resolution to take us into like mid-December, which is really problematic. So think about this. Is you're going to have members of Congress coming back in December to vote for another spending bill. These are members of Congress that have either retired or lost an election. So you're going to have these folks zero accountability when it comes to voting for this spending bill. And that's what I'm concerned about, is that we could see a lot of nonsense put into a spending bill come December. And of course, right before Christmas, everyone's, buying Christmas presents and, distracted. Well, maybe people can't afford Christmas presents this year, but, we're going to have that Christmas distraction, and Congress is going to be spending trillions of dollars. So this is not setting up to be a good rest of the year for sure.
No. It's unbelievable. I wanted to ask you, though, with respect to government spending, aka government wasting, which seem to be synonymous with each other, this report that $3.7 billion, I think $3.3 billion of it, these FEMA dollars, were wasted, with a lot of it going to fraudulent payments. Look, I know that government is clumsy, but really, even this seems like an egregious number for our government to fumble.
Yeah, clumsy is kind. I think you're being kind when you say the government's being clumsy. And listen, this is the problem, right? Is they're so anxious to spend money, but they're not anxious to do the oversight. And there needs to be money that is set aside and earmarked for the inspector general to have a really robust, strong inspector general to root this out. And here's the other problem, is that the government spends this money so fast that there's no time to do the oversight. And the grifters, the criminals, they know this. They know that the government doesn't have these checks and balances in place. And that's why you see the $3.7 billion just disappear. It just disappears from the U.S. Treasury.
It's amazing. We had this crazy moment on Monday. I think it was Monday. Dick Durbin, the second most senior Democrat in the Senate, had to come out and say, my son's company's on this fraud list, but it wasn't him. He had his identity stolen. He really did. Someone just made the Durbin Construction Company and used his son's name, and voila, money is taken away. There doesn't seem to be any even effort to check the identity of people or check the existence of companies before they write the check. When did we get to that sort of a whiplash spending?
Oh, we've been here for a while. And, it goes back to every natural disaster. And I remember Hurricane Katrina, that there was nothing in place. And, the late Senator Tom Coburn begged Congress to appropriate money for oversight. He said, we are going to spend hundreds of billions of dollars. Let's spend a few million to do oversight. And they rejected his amendment. So this goes back, that's 2005 now. So this has been happening for so long. And that's the crazy thing, is Congress, they don't learn the lesson, right? Is that this happens over and over again, yet they still just push money out so quickly, because to them it's a photo op. It may not be a real photo op, it's a virtual photo op to say, I just spent $1 trillion to, quote, help people. Well, people are helping themselves, and boy, they picked the wrong person, Dick Durbin, because he's a U.S. senator. So it's, whoever stole this guy's identity really is dumb in so many ways.
Yeah, really is. Audacious.
Yeah, absolutely. David, I wanted to shift over to a topic that has come to light, especially recently, since some members of Congress have made some very advantageous stock purchases and exchanges. And so the conversation, of course, has arisen about members of Congress even being able to trade while they are in office. And I wanted to ask you about this comment from this group, Represent Us, which is a nonpartisan anti-corruption group. And they talked about Democrat Senator regulators' decision to delay a stock trading ban until after the midterms. They called it disappointing. Now, I know that the easy answer is to ban stock trading for members of Congress. I think that it's a little harder than that. Maybe it pertains to banning, private partnerships with public entities. I don't know what the answer is, but I just wanted to get your overall take on it.
So I think this is actually an easy one here is, yes, members of Congress can invest their money, but it can't be in stocks because they serve on committees. They get very sensitive information. We saw this at the beginning of COVID, is that people got out of stocks and they lessened their losses, to say. They didn't make money necessarily, but they lessened their losses. And so what you do is you put the money into a blind trust, is that members of Congress and their families can't trade individual stocks. And, they have to wait 180 days after they leave Congress. So there are ways of doing this where, once they leave Congress, they can trade stocks again. But being a member of Congress is a privilege. And let's be honest, they're spending millions of dollars for this job. So they really want this job. And guess what? There's going to be a few sacrifices with it. And one of those is not being able to trade stocks because, quite frankly, we can't trust them. We can't trust them to do the right thing because right now the penalty for disclosing a stock purchase is like $200. So imagine being able to make, a few $100,000. You get a slap on the wrist of $200 from the federal government. That's not much of a deterrent, is it? So I think this is, again, we talk about low-hanging fruit. Pick this fruit off the vine, man. This is easy. Pass it.
Yeah, exactly. There are traffic fines in D.C. that are a lot more than $200. It's just crazy.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah. Well, we got about a minute left. I want to quickly ask you about this environmental social governance movement. We often talk about the cost of government in terms of the dollars that we spend in tax dollars, but regulatory intrusion in corporate world also has an enormous cost. Talk a little bit, we got about a minute, ESG, how it could have a negative effect on America.
So companies need to invest money the best way for the people that are invested in those companies. They can't be burdened by this ESG and looking at, is it good for the environment? And they're looking at like third instance of a carbon footprint, not even first or second. They're getting way beyond any sort of climate footprint here. And quite frankly, a government that is $30 trillion in debt, I am not going to listen to when it comes to investing advice. I'm going to listen to my broker. I'm going to listen to the companies that are making money, not a government official that's part of a $30 trillion debt organization. That's for sure.
That's a great point.
Amen. Absolutely. All right, everybody, go check out Taxpayer Protection Alliance. They always inform and educate us, and we are so grateful to have experts like you. David Williams, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And we are forced to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, Helet Frahela will join us to discuss the widespread support that Hispanics are giving the GOP governors as they transport illegals across the country to Democrat-run cities. We will be right back after these commercial messages.